Good morning and welcome to Monday Coffee. The last couple of weeks we've been talking about different church sets, and this also works within your own personal life of how we relate to one another and the ways in which we create boundaries or no boundaries, fuzzy boundaries. And so last week we talked about the bounded set and how we create this, institutions, churches, and people create this circle that either you're in or you're out. And it's a black and white view of the world. If you're in, you're part of the group. If you're out, you are basically viewed as an enemy. This week, what I want to talk about is the fuzzy set. And the fuzzy set is all about how boundaries are just kind of fuzzy. You don't really know where you stand within an institution or a church or in a relationship. Boundaries aren't really given either. And when discipline is needed, that it's not really followed through with because nobody really wants to do that. There's really no accountability. Everything just feels kind of fuzzy, like you don't know what's going on. Maybe you've had a relationship where you've experienced that, a church that you've been at that you've experienced that, a job that you've experienced that at, a school, places like that. I think a good example of this would be within a church setting. If a church youth group doesn't want someone serving as a volunteer in the youth group who is currently living with their partner out of marriage, but they don't want to directly confront the person about it or tell them that's why they shouldn't serve. Instead, they try to find passive-aggressive ways to remove that person from that position. That is kind of an example of what a fuzzy set, a fuzzy way of relating to one another within a church setting looks like. In biblical terms, I like to think of back in the Old Testament. Before God gave the law to the Israelites and the tabernacle, people then thought that gods were angry with them if they experienced drought or famine, things like that, because they never knew where they stood with the gods. And so if they had a drought or their crops failed or died, they thought, I must have done something wrong to upset the gods because this was a punishment on me. What God did that was so revolutionary at the time was he gave the Israelites a set of laws and gave them a tabernacle so that they knew that God was dwelling with them and that these laws were the ways that which God wanted them to live with one another and with God, that they knew exactly where they stood with their God, which was vastly different than all the other gods that were being worshipped at the time. This was a God that tried to let the Israelites know that they are known and that they can know their relationship with their God as well. So that shows kind of back in that time how it was a fuzzy set with the gods, and then God came in and started this centered set or even a bounded set to get them started. So where in your life do you see a fuzzy set within your own relationships? Where do you see it maybe in your churches or your workplace or any other institutions that you're a part of? And then how can you work on creating clearer boundaries in your own life? You can't always fix a whole system or institution, but what can you do for yourself that creates a more bouncy, a trampoline-like boundary that you know that if it passes this line, then there needs to be some kind of either consequence or accountability. Because in a fuzzy set, there's none of that. So that's the fuzzy set for you this week. And this week, may you think of the ways in which you can be clear with your loved ones and your institutions about where you stand and where your boundaries are. Have a great week.